Today we're going to continue reading The Telltale Heart. We talked about this before. We had part 1 and part 2. And so this is part 3, where we will continue the story and see what happens. If you don't remember, The Telltale Heart is a classic American story. It's written by an author named Edgar Allan Poe, and pretty much everyone in the United States will read this story when they're growing up. I read this when I was in high school, and it's a famous story. Everybody knows it. People will refer to it in other things, and so it's good to know. It's one of those things, like, part of learning a language is learning the culture. If someone you're talking to says something that's connected to culture, but you have no idea what it is, you won't understand what they are talking about. So when you're learning a language, it's important to also learn a little bit of the culture. And some of that means learning some stories that are famous or popular in another country. So, The Telltale Heart is one of those stories, and we can continue it today. So, what is happening in the story? So, there's this character who says he is totally normal. He says he's not crazy. So, he's telling us, I'm going to tell you this story in a very calm way that shows that I'm not crazy. But he decided that he's going to kill an old man that he lives with. That sounds a little bit crazy to me, right? And why does he want to kill the man? Because the old man has an eye that looks kind of strange. It looks like a vulture's eye. So his eye is blue, and the main character thinks it's a little bit creepy or annoying. I don't know, but it's enough for him to want to kill the old man. So he's not a normal guy. So what does he do? Well, what he does, every night for a week, he goes to the man's bedroom and slowly opens the door and slowly sticks his head through the door in the darkness. And so the old man can't see him and doesn't know he's there. And the main character thinks he's very clever and very smart. And then he also has a lantern, and he opens the lantern just a little bit. So a ray of light, meaning one little piece of light, one beam of light, goes on the old man's blue eye. But the old man is sleeping, so nothing happens. And the main character does this for a whole week, every night at midnight. So very strange and very creepy. Okay? And then on the 8th night, the main character goes to open his lantern, and thunk, he makes a sound. And the old man sits up quickly and says, "Who's there?" So the old man is scared and thinks someone might be there. But the main character stays there in the dark, not moving for an hour, just sitting there. And the old man is sitting in his room, scared for an hour. So it's very tense, very uncomfortable. And last time we read that the old man made a sound. He let out a groan. That's that sound. Because he's feeling terror. He's very, very, very scared. He thinks something's wrong, and he thinks something bad will happen. He thinks something bad will happen. And then, let's see. The old man cannot tell that the main character has his head in the doorway. So that's what's going on right now. the main character has his head through the door in the darkness, and he's standing still because the old man is awake, and the old man is trying to convince himself everything will be okay. It must have been a mouse. It must have been the wind. But the main character is still standing there waiting. So this is a pretty creepy situation, right? So they're in the dark and we don't know what's going to happen next. So let's move on to the next page. So I'll read it first, then we can talk about it, then we can read it one more time, okay? So, when I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until, at length, a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. Okay, so let's go through this part by part. When I had waited a long time, very patiently. So I think that's okay. He's waiting and he's being very patient because he waited for an hour. Without hearing him lie down. So he's waiting for the old man to go back to sleep. But it didn't happen. So without hearing him lie down. So I didn't hear him lie down. I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So here the word resolved is like the word decided. I resolved to do something. This is a formal way to say decided. Usually decided is good enough, but someone might say, I resolved to blah, 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 blah. I resolved to quit my job. That would be very serious, right? I'm done. I'm resolved to quit my job. So it's another way to say decided, a little more formal. I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. Again, a lantern is a lamp, a kind of light. It's a lamp that you can hold in your hand. And he decided to open a little crevice in the lantern. A crevice is like a little crack or a little hole. So you can imagine the lantern is something like that's a house. Make the lantern kind of like this with a door on the front, maybe. And a lantern's usually round. So he decides to open a little crevice, just a tiny bit. A crevice is a tiny crack. So he opens it a little bit, so there's a very, very small opening. That's called a crevice. And when that crevice is open, what happens? Well, a little bit of light can come out. So he says, so I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily. So you can't imagine how stealthily he opened it. Stealthily means like secretly or quietly. If you're thinking about animals, you might think that a fox is very stealthy. Then it moves in a sneaky, quiet way. Sneaky is a good word too. Sneakily. He opened it stealthily, so in a very quiet, silent way. So you cannot imagine how stealthily. So that means it's so quiet and so careful that you can't even imagine. Like super duper quiet. Until, at length, a single dim ray. We talked about the word ray last time. A ray means a beam of light. Wong. So the light goes in a line. So it makes a line of light. But it's a dim ray. A single dim ray. Dim means it's not bright. So it's pretty hard to see. If it was bright, maybe it might wake up the old man, or it could light up the room. But we want it to be, or the main character wants it to be dim, so it's hard to see. A single dim ray, like the thread of a spider. So spider can make thread, a line from a spider. So he's comparing this beam of light, this ray of light. It's just like the thread of a spider. So a single dim ray shot from out the crevice. Boom! It came out of the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. So the light fell upon the old man's vulture eye, the eye that the main character doesn't like. So that's what all of this means. He's slowly opening it very carefully, and a little bit of light, boom, goes onto the man's vulture eye, the eye that the main character doesn't like. So let's read it one more time. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a little, a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until, at length, a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, or of the spider, shot from out the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. So he points the lantern and the light goes right on the old man's eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. So, what is he saying in this part? It was open. What was open? So the light, boom, shines on the vulture eye. It was open. It means the old man's eye. The old man's eye is open. Wide open. So wide open is meaning that not a little bit closed, it's completely open. And I grew furious as I gazed upon it. So the main character gets furious. This is a really good word. Furious means very angry. So if you're at work, you might say, oh God, Jim made a mistake and now our boss is furious. He's like, Gah! He's getting super angry. He's turning Super Saiyan. So furious is a good word to know. So I grew furious as I gazed upon it. To gaze at something means to look at it for a long time. So look at is to gaze at something. Okay? So I grew furious as I gazed upon it. So he's looking at the old man's eye and getting angry. So he's definitely a little bit crazy, I think. I saw it with perfect distinctness. Distinctness means like it's very clear. Clarity. I saw it with clarity, meaning being clear. So you can see the eye clearly. All a dull blue. So all of the eye was dull blue. So why does the old man not notice this? Well, if his eye is all blue, maybe it's blind. Well, yes, it must be blind, because if he wasn't blind, he would see the light. Excuse me. So, I saw it with perfect distinctness. He can see it clearly. All a dull blue. The eye is all a dull blue. Dull for color means a weak color, meaning that the color is not bright. Okay? So you can imagine a bright blue is very blue. But something that's a dull blue might be a little bit gray color. It's blue, but a little bit gray or a little bit white. Okay? It's not a bright, strong blue. And with a hideous veil over it. So the eye is a dull blue with a hideous veil over it. Veil is not a very common word, but it's a covering, like something that covers his eye. And it's maybe like maybe the old man is sick and there's something wrong with his eye. That's why it's blue, right? And so there's something on his eye and it's a veil. And he says it's a hideous veil. Hideous is a very good word. Hideous means very, very ugly. Like disgusting. It's so ugly it makes you want to be sick. So there's a hideous veil on this blue eye. Ugh, it's really creepy. So all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. So to get a chill means you have a cold feeling and maybe it makes you shake. So if you get a chill, you go like this. And sometimes you can get a chill from being cold, of course, but you can get a chill from seeing something scary or something gross. Or it could be something good sometimes, like you get a chill from listening to good music sometimes. Wow. So a chill is that feeling where like your body you can't control your body because of that feeling. But this is the bad chill, right? So his eye chilled the very marrow in my bones. So marrow means the center of your bone. So the inside of our bones, there's a soft part, and that's called marrow. We have so many words. Marrow is the middle of your bone. This is not a common word, but if you go to a restaurant, you might get bone marrow as a dish. Sometimes people think that tastes good, like from a cow. They take the bone, crack the bone, people will eat the marrow. But so here he says, the eye chilled the very marrow in my bones. So I got a chill. And it went so deep, it went to the inside of his bones. So it chilled the marrow in his bones. So this is a kind of phrase that shows you're super chilled, not in a good way. You're chilled so much it goes all the way through your body. Okay. Keep going. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person. So he can't see anything else. He can only see the blue eye. So I could see nothing else of the old man. So no other parts of him. Only the eye has light on it. How? For I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. Here, this word for is being used like because. This is a very formal way of using it, but it's kind of like because. I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person because I had directed the ray, blah, 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 blah. Okay? I directed the ray as if by instinct. Instinct is like a natural feeling. Something you do without thinking. You just naturally do it. That's your instinct. And then precisely upon the damned spot. Precisely is exactly. So this is a good word. He didn't miss. He got it right there. Perfect. So precisely upon the damned spot. Spot meaning place. He uses the word damned because he hates it. You can use damned to describe anything. Something. This is not a good word, but it's a curse word. It's a word you shouldn't use all the time, but it's used to show that you don't like something or you hate something. So he shined light on the damned spot, meaning he hates that place, that spot, the eye. Okay. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness, one more time. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? Now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. Boom, 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 boom. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. So, this is kind of tricky. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? So, this part, have I not told you, is didn't I tell you? Da da da. So this is a formal way to say, didn't I tell you? Like, I think I already told you this. So didn't I tell you? Have I not told you? And then what he already told us. What you mistake for madness. So what you think is madness in being crazy is but over acuteness of the senses. So the senses means taste, touch, hearing, seeing, smelling, right? And he says he has over acuteness. Acuteness means like very accurate and good senses. And the main character says he has over acuteness of the senses, meaning that he can see super clearly. He can hear super clearly. Okay? Now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound. So low, boom, boom, boom. Dull, so it's weak, it's not clear, and quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. Enveloped means wrapped. This such as that he says is to make a comparison. He's comparing the sound he heard with this idea. So he heard a sound and it's like this sound. So I heard a quick sound such as a watch when makes enveloped in cotton. Imagine if a watch is wrapped in cotton, like what is used to make clothes, what will the watch sound like? It will sound like... So it's a quiet, low, repeating sound. It's ticking, but it's not tick, tick, tick like a watch. And so what is this sound? I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. As the old man is scared, his heart is beating. Boom, 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 boom. It increased my fury. Fury means anger. So this sound makes the main character even more angry. It increased my fury. As the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. So he's making another comparison using as. So the word as is like just like. So the sound increased his fury just like the beating of a drum stimulates a soldier. Stimulates means gives energy. So if a drum is playing for soldiers, how will the soldiers feel? Well, it will stimulate the soldiers into courage. So hearing a drum, boom, boom, boom. There's a little bug. Hearing a drum will make soldiers want to fight. The drum will give them courage. It will stimulate them into courage. So you can imagine, just like a drum makes a soldier ready to fight, the beating of the drum makes the main character energetic. He's going crazy. He's getting angry. So what happens next? So he's getting angrier and angrier. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. Boom, 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 boom. It grew quicker and quicker. Boom, 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 boom. And louder every instant. Boom, 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 boom. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder. I say louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Ugh! Yet for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. Boom, 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 boom. I thought the heart must burst. Wow. So it's getting exciting and scary. So even yet, I refrained and kept still. So the main character hears the heart beating and he refrained. This is a formal way to say I held back. Or I didn't act. You can't see that. I didn't act. I didn't do anything. So I didn't move. So you can choose to do something or you can refrain. To refrain means you say, no, it's okay. I'm not going to do it. So the main character says, even yet, I refrained and kept still. So he didn't attack and he kept still. He didn't move. I scarcely breathed. Scarcely is another way to say barely. So I barely breathed. So almost nothing. So just little bits. I held the lantern motionless. So motionless means without motion. Motion means movement. So not moving. So he held it still and he barely breathed. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. So he's trying his best to see if he can keep the light on the old man's eye. So the way this is written is a little bit old-fashioned, so don't worry if it's a little confusing. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. So what he means is he tried his best to keep the ray of light steady on the old man's eye. That's what this means. But don't worry about the grammar. We don't really write this way very much. Meantime, this is another way to say meanwhile or at the same time. Come on. So meantime is an old way to say meanwhile or at the same time. So you should use meanwhile. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased. There's no real tattoo here. The tattoo is like the mark. In this story, it means the mark, meaning there's some sort of signal coming from the heart. And he calls it a tattoo, but it's actually just the sound. And it's hellish, meaning it's like hell. So hearing the heart is making the main character go crazy. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased, so more and more heartbeats. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. So the heart is getting faster, quicker and quicker, and louder. Boom, 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 boom. The old man's terror must have been extreme. Again, terror means fear. It grew louder. I say louder every moment. Do you mark me well? So this is not something people say anymore, but this is an old way to say, like, do you understand me? Do you mark me well? Okay. And, or do you think everything's okay? Okay. And then he says, I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. So he's standing there and he's nervous. And now at the dead hour of the night. Dead hour meaning it's so late at night, it's like the world is dead. So in the middle of the night is the dead hour of the night. Amid the dreadful silence of that old house. Amid means in the middle. So amid the silence of the house. So you're in the silence of the house. What kind of silence? Dreadful. Dreadful is like terrible. It's awful. It's not nice silence. It's really scary and terrible. Okay? Amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this meaning this heartbeat. So strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. So he's very scared too, and it's out of control. It's uncontrollable. He's like, he's all messed up. So he's nervous and he gets worse. He's afraid too. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. What does refrain mean? Meaning he didn't do anything and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. So the heart is going crazy and the main character is getting nervous too. And the sound is making him go crazy too. So should we read it one more time? My throat's starting to get sore. Sorry about that. So one more time after we discussed it. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. Boom, 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 boom. It grew quicker and quicker. Boom, 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 boom. And louder every instant. Boom, 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 boom. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am very nervous. Oops, sorry, I added a very. So I am. Now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house. So strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. So the main character is getting frustrated and excited, but he's still not moving. And next up. And now, a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, "Ah!" I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. Boom! He shrieked once. Ah! Once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. Boom! I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. Boom, 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 boom. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. Boom, 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 boom. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Dun dun dun. So he did it. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go through this. I think we can stop on this page for today. Because this is the exciting moment. We had all this tension, all this suspense. Now the moment came. And now a new anxiety seized me. Anxiety is like a really bad worry or a fear. Anxiety usually means you're worried about something. But a very intense feeling of being worried. So strong worry. So a new anxiety seized me. Seized is like grabbed. So it didn't actually grab him, but it's in his heart or in his mind. This fear, this worry, this anxiety grabbed him. Oh my gosh, what could happen? So he suddenly has a new thing that he's afraid of. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. Which sound? Well, the sound of the old man's heart. So the main character thinks the neighbor could hear the beating heart. Boom, 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 boom. Because the main character thinks it's so loud. The old man's hour had come. So this phrase, someone's hour has come, is kind of common. But usually we'd say someone's time has come. Okay? And so this could be used in many different ways. It could be used for lots of situations. If someone's time has come, that means the world is ready for them to do something. So like, okay, here in this story, his time has come means it's time for him to die. Unfortunately. Like if someone's in trouble at work. They did something wrong. And then the boss calls them and says, come to my office. You could say, oh, geez, Jim's time has come. He's in big trouble. Okay? So it's your time to get in trouble is kind of what this means usually. Okay. So the old man's hour had come. It's his time to be in big trouble. With a loud yell, rah! I threw open the lantern. Now, he didn't actually throw anything. He just pulled it open really quick. But you throw it open, it sounds even faster. I threw open the lantern, boom, and leaped into the room. A leap is a big jump. So he jumped into the room. He shrieked once. A shriek is a really high pitch scream. So to shriek is if someone goes, ah! So the old man shrieked once. So he screamed really loud, but only one time. Once only. Because there's not enough time to scream anymore. In an instant, meaning very quickly, I dragged him to the floor. So dragged him means pulled him to the floor, and pulled the heavy bed over him. Boom. He's going to cover the old man, and so he can't breathe. So he pulls the man on the floor, puts the bed on top of him, and he's pushing down. I then smiled gaily. So here is the word gaily. This comes from the word gay, G-A-Y. Oops, sorry. The word gay actually means happy. And so only recently has this word changed its meaning. So now the word gay has a different meaning, but the old meaning was just happy. And so if you read old stories or watch old movies, someone might say, oh, I'm very gay today. And that means they're very happy. Okay? So don't think too much. I then smiled gaily, not because he likes the old man, but because he's very happy. Okay? So I smiled gaily, haha, because he finally did it. To find the deed so far done. The deed, meaning the job, the mission. He wanted to kill the old man, and finally he did it. So he has found the deed so far done. He figured out a way to finish his job. So he knows it's over. So that's what this means. Find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. So this on means it continued. It beat on, meaning it continued to beat, boom, 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 but with a muffled sound. Muffled means it's covered, and it's a soft sound. A soft, covered sound. So it's not boom, 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 boom. It's more like boom, 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 boom. Okay? You can still hear it, but it's softer and it sounds covered. This, however, did not vex me. Vex is an old-fashioned word meaning bother. So this didn't bother me. Or it didn't worry him anymore. So he can hear the heart, but he's not worried about it. He's not really nervous about it. It did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. Because the heart is covered and it's muffled, the neighbor won't hear this sound. At length, it ceased. At length just means after a long time. Ceased is another way to say stopped. This is a good word to know. So someone ceased what they were doing. That means they stopped what they were doing. So at length it ceased. So after a long time, the sound stopped. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. So he took away the bed and examined the corpse. He checked the dead body. So examined means check. And then corpse is a dead body. So he covered the old man with a bed, and then he could still hear the heartbeat, but after a long time, the heart stopped. And he checked the bed, or he checked under the bed, he checked the dead body, and yes, he was stone dead. So stone dead means completely dead. He's not moving at all. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. So he's checking for the heartbeat. There was no pulsation. Pulsation is a formal word. We don't use this much. But when we're talking about a heart, we often use the word pulse. So this is a good word to know. Your pulse means your heartbeat. So there was no pulse is what you could say, heartbeat. So there's no beat in his chest. There's no pulse. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Again, trouble is kind of like the word vex earlier. Trouble means to bother someone. So his eye would trouble me no more. His eye would not bother me ever again, because goodbye, old man. So this is kind of a scary moment, but this is the exciting part. He finally jumped out and did it. So let's read it one more time after we checked all the words, and then we can say goodbye for today. So he's standing there motionless, right? And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, "Rah!" I opened the lantern, doom, and leaped into the room. Doom. He shrieked once, "Ah!" Once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor, boom, and pulled the heavy bed over him, boom. I then smiled gaily, ha ha ha, to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. Boop, 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 boop. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. Boom, 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 boom. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. Mwahahahaha. And so, our main character finally did the deed. He killed the old man. After 7 nights of standing in the dark and just staring, he finally did it. And the poor old man, he did nothing wrong. He just had an eye that was a little bit creepy looking, right? And so this is a big, exciting part of the story, but we're not done yet. So the old man is dead, but more is going to come. Because what happened? Well, the main character let out a yell. The old man shrieked. So there was some sound. Maybe the neighbors wouldn't hear the heartbeat, but maybe they'll hear a shriek or a yell, right? So Next time, we'll see what happens when the neighbors call the police and the police come to the house. So that's it for today. We can stop our story there. And next time, we'll see what will happen to the main character when the police come and knock at his door. Will he be okay? Will they save the old man? Well, they can't save the old man. Will they catch the main character? Or will the main character get away with killing the old man? So we can take a look at more of the story next time. Okay? So let's stop here for today. Thank you for joining. I hope you're enjoying the story. I know it's very difficult, but trying something hard is good for you once in a while. And if you're doing it with me, we can take these hard things and work through it slowly, right? If you're on your own, it might be a big headache. But if we work together, maybe it's a little bit easier. So let's stop here and we'll continue it next time. So thank you for joining and have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.